Good evening. Calling to order the Committee of the Whole meeting agenda from September 26, 2023. We'll all rise and salute the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Galucci, would you call the roll?
Sure. Mrs. Bronson-Rizzo?
Here.
Here.
Mr. Kingston?
Here.
Mrs. Mowbray-Ellis?
Present.
Ms. Monterosso?
Here.
Ms. Ty?
Here.
Acting Mayor Keefe?
Here. We have a quorum. First up, consent calendar. Approval of the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Questions?
Good question.
Do you have any questions? Oh, I said, do we have a second? Sorry, do we have a second?
Second.
No motions.
No motions? All in favor? Well,
No.
roll call?
We don't have to vote until the main meeting, so we just
Oh,
went through these.
correct.
Questions?
All right.
Any questions?
Any questions? Thank you, Stacy. No? No warrants? Warrants?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Ferrante.
Thank you. Matt, I have 3 questions. The first one is on page 6, number 210. It just says National Grid electricity, $11,974. Is that for the entire buildings or is that a particular building?
That is for the Hill School building.
Is that 1 month?
Yep. Sometimes you will see nothing for other schools if the credits outpace the bills for the month. Sometimes you'll see a charge like this appear. So that would be the back end of the school year bill for the Hill.
Thank you. Next one on page 8, number 278, New England School Building Renovations, Furnished Installed Doors. Which building was that?
That's PO 6398. I don't know. Any idea?
I
which-
believe those are the new doors in the field house.
Yes, because we're also getting ready to install new doors at the Garfield, but that bill wouldn't have been for that yet. So that's field house installation, using the building renovations account that we set aside for a project like that each year.
And my last question on page 9, number 297, Ignite Reading PBC, Education Services, $450,000. Just a quick explanation.
Sure. Do you want to speak into that?
Sure, that's our elementary literacy curriculum that we use for grades K through 5.
Thank you very much. All set?
Thank you. Any other questions? Ms. Monterosso?
Just a quick wondering on line items 304 to 314. What was that summer food expenditures?
I can answer this one too.
Great.
So that is grant funding that the food service program receives in order to fund summer meals for students when school's not in session.
The majority of the food for that program is procured through the Food Services Management Company, but there's 2 special purchase orders. One is McDonald's and one is Spinelli's. So every other week there would either be pizza or cheeseburgers, depending, and they're billing us back. Because it's a summer program, we get weekly invoices, but you're seeing them summed up for the month of August.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Aisha Ellis?
Thanks, Matt. On page 8, I see line item 266 and 267. They're duplicative, but is it just because they're 2 different schools under the same invoice?
No, that's a monthly bill that we pay, but because procurement is not available in the month of July through the city, a number of our monthly bills, we hold on to July and August and pay them together. So you're seeing July and August payments both hitting in the month of August.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Rizzo?
Thank you. Just out of curiosity, I'm looking at page 3, number 85, 86, 87, build to built. Is this the first year we're working with them? Bridget, it'd be Bridget Independent?
Oh, I don't know if that's the first year that we've seen this vendor. We're seeing individual invoices there over the summertime, also weekly, so there was 3 that were paid in the month of August. But I'm not sure if that's a new services vendor for SPED.
Okay. I don't recall ever
Okay.
seeing,
I'll flag it.
they have great services, but I never noticed them before. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Ty.
Not a question about anything, but an observation. First, I was very sad to say that the cherry tree had been chopped down. Even though the price perhaps was over the top, I know how expensive that is. But I would have paid anything for the page 6, number 203 and 205, the comfort dog training that we have. I think we will get our money's worth out of that. And over and over and over again. So I'm so glad that we have that program. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions on warrants? No? Okay. Financial report?
The one report that we have for you is called Carry Forward Analysis. So this is preparing for a conversation about mobilizing funds that flowed from last year into this year. So there's a few things going on the cover page of this report. So one is that we've been seeking to amass a reserve so that we are well prepared for the next 3 to 4 year run of maintaining our teaching staff at levels that ESSER 2 and 3 were able to get us to. So we're working toward achieving that goal. And also, tying out the books in the month of August allows us in September to say, okay, what do we have for a carry forward appropriation that's coming? We had been estimating that to be in the $16 million range, which sounds enormous. But don't forget, we've been seeking to build a $10 million reserve, which we have accomplished. And so we'll move next to conversation here and with the Ways and Means Committee about how are we mobilizing the carry forward that's available for spending to benefit education in this current school year that we're in, knowing that we have $5 million of those dollars allocated for classroom teaching staff, and thinking about how to mobilize that other $1 million plus going into this school year. So that conversation begins now, and then in the month of October, the committee will have a vote on the appropriation of those funds. The second page is more detail than anyone typically needs, but just want to show you the kind of complexity that goes into projecting and actualizing our carry forward. And then the last page is just a worksheet in progress, starting to prep us for those conversations. And you can see here, basically we're saying, hey, there's 16.3 million. We're reserving 10 of that to move forward into the post-ESSER reality. We are mobilizing 5 of that for classroom teachers, maintenance, and we'll have around 1.3 for school committee discretion for needs that have emerged or things that will drive education in this school year.
Ms. Monterosso.
Can you just repeat what number was for school committee discretion?
Sure. If you see maybe a third of the way down on the third page, it says school committee allocations to be made, and it says 1.336187. So those are funds that we will mobilize in this school year for net school spending eligible purposes. And the Ways and Means Committee will be talking about that and recommending to the committee as a whole to mobilize those funds. This is the soonest we can do it. And so we'd like to have these decisions voted on in October so that the money is impacting learning in this school year.
Thank
And
you.
if I can just add to that, I did send to the committee earlier tonight, or this afternoon, I guess it was, a sheet with the proposals that some of them you all had been bringing up since the summer, since the budget was actually passed in June, I think it was, or May, I forget now.
June, yeah.
In June. And so I've been tracking that and then also tracking requests from school administrators. And so you should have an electronic version of that. It's what I'm hoping that we will vote in October. But I will just surface to the committee, I put a discussion for this on the regular meeting agenda, if there are any things on there that you want to talk about, and in particular with the staffing positions. There's one for another custodian at the high school and for 2 part-time para positions at the Paul Revere to go to full-time. I think those are the only people. If you wanted to grant permission, we could start looking to fill those positions sooner than later, while the committee considers all of the other items that are on the list.
Ms. Milbury Ellis.
Dr. Kelly, would it be unusual to make this known to like the teachers and staff and admin that, you know, if there's anything that they need, they could maybe put forward? It doesn't guarantee they're going to get it, but.
I spoke to all of the administrators. That's how I built this list.
Okay.
And I think that's the right place to go. I did put in, Matt's not going to love this, but what the committee voted last year, I did put in for the $200 allotment to each teacher. And I also put in the $50 per employee to reopen the swag store if the committee wanted to do that again. I'm not married to things like that, but I was in conversation with all of you at different times. I wanted to make sure that all of the things that have come forward were captured here, and then the committee can make their decision on what they want to support or not.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I think I captured everything, but if I missed something, please tell me.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman?
Sir? Mr. Kingston? Sorry,
Oh, me.
Mr. Ferrante?
Thank you. Matt, I just have one question on that sheet. There was money that's going back to the city, and I'm not questioning the money. Is this the first time that we're doing this, the $35,000?
That's right. So at the bottom of the front page, you'll see a line that says non-net school spending eligible and must flow back to the city. We giggled about the amount that 16 million plus is moving to school side and 35,000 moving back to city. What this is the city embeds in our budget a certain amount of money for not net school spending eligible costs like transportation, crossing guards, the security guard that's doing the civic work at the stadium. So at the end of the year, if we tie out the numbers and there is a surplus in there, that money actually flows back to the city. So we're trying here to tighten up visualizing that difference. Hopefully this year we run that transportation department as much savings as we can, and that if we do, you'll see a bigger number in that cell. Those are funds that belong to the city. We spent them for the city, and if there was a surplus, that money needs to flow back to the city. So we're just trying to be more transparent about how that's happening.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Ms. Monterosso?
I just have one last question. For the carry forward, does every dollar have to be itemized, or do we get to leave like a discretion, like if anything else comes up from the committee that we'd like to use funds for?
It does need to be itemized in the same way that we take our appropriation from the city and say, here's where we want it. We'll need to send them a financial communication after the October meeting that says, here's the accounts that we need you to put this money into. Now, within that account, we could have some leeway. So we may say, hey, we know we want to invest in technology. We're not exactly sure what that purchase would be. Let's embed that money in a classroom instructional technology account, but still be free to do procurement as we get there. But we try and be as tight as we can about basic areas, because they'll tie it down to general ledger accounts from which it will actually be spent. And we try with these forms to give you the biggest picture, and then sometimes I'll throw it back up at you in size 8 font, and then sometimes behind that is another 6,000 cells to get to the big picture. So we'll do the best we can as a Ways and Means Committee of putting it where we intend to spend it. Some of it will be easy, some of it will be a general area, but there is no just open account. We have to specify which series especially that would live in.
But if I can just expand on that a little bit, in terms of what we're looking at right now, in terms of our required net school spending and the $1.33 million that's there, the committee could decide that maybe they only want to spend $500,000 and let another $700,000 flow through for carry forward for next year. So there is some discretion there. We just have to balance, and Matt and I spend a lot of time looking at this and making sure that, and we are going to be fully expended on net school spending for FY '24, but we need to make sure year to year that we're staying within that 5% margin of error that we're allowed to by state law be near. We can't let so much flow through that we're not spending enough on the kids, basically, is the way I'll say it.
Yep. And the most important number on these pages is that 10 million that we will have amassed for district reserve. That was a goal that we established as a team and said if we can have that when the ESSER 3 funding dries up in '23, then the bridge into the future will be able to walk right over it. And so if we felt we needed more than that, at least as the CFO, I might be encouraging you to say, hey, let's not invest that 1.3 this year. But being that we got to our goal of the 10, knowing that all this money is meant to drive learning, then the 1.3, you should feel empowered to say, what's the best place to invest this in what we're doing this year? So I know it's hard for numbers to tell the story, but that's the story behind all of that.
Thank you. Ms.
And
Ty? Ms. Ty had a question.
Well, you know, the budget, let me back up a minute. We paid for 2 design studies, is that correct? The current one, for the 2 that the study for Wonderland and the study for the current site for the new high school? Maybe you could just explain for a minute about where that money came
Sure.
from.
Yeah,
Because I
so-
think people are not clear about that. And Matt?
So let me, I can start with that,
Oh,
Carol, if you
okay.
don't mind.
No.
When we were accepted into the core program by the Massachusetts School Building Authority, one of the first things they did with the city was make a funding agreement for the schematic design and the feasibility study. That came out to a little bit over $2 million. And so the city, because the buildings actually belong to the city, and it's the city that's responsible for the school buildings, the city came up with the money to pay for that, and MSBA reimbursed them using our reimbursement rates for a portion of that money. And I believe, I don't have the numbers exactly in front of me. I believe it was a little more than 60% that the MSBA reimbursed to the city out of that $2 million. When we were sent back to the starting line, when the city council did not vote to support that submission, we did get permission from MSBA to start the process over again, and they granted that, but we have to fund it ourselves.
The school department, that is, has to fund it.
That's right. And so, did the city have the option to fund it? I suppose they could have. I know they didn't bond that money. But we did petition the Department of Education, and they granted approval for us to use some of our ESSER 3 funds.
That's right.
Because building this school is still serving the mission of defeating COVID and making sure we have safe learning environments for our students going forward. And that is the primary mission of what the ESSER funding was for.
Right.
So we were able to take $2.3 million of our ESSER money and pay for the second round of schematic design and feasibility study that we're currently in on the existing site. But certainly that was a hit to the pocketbook, without a doubt.
It certainly is, and to me, it seems that, you know, we could have found a very good use for the other for that 2.3 million or whatever it was in different areas, in so many different areas, not only in personnel, but in many other areas. So I just want to be clear, because I think what happens is that people think that the school department, and this has always been true, the school department has all the money, you know, and that they can have, and the fact is that we are limited in what we can spend it on, and as Matt explains every single month that we have a meeting about what we spend things on, and it's not as if the city is being magnanimous to us in any way at all. Thank you.
You know, I'll add to that, because it's been a point of confusion that's come up several times when I've been at city council for budget hearings. The state of Massachusetts allocates a certain amount of money to the city of Revere, some of it through Chapter 70, which means that it has to be spent on the schools, and other money that is meant for the city, for whatever services they're providing to the residents and all of that. If you take those two numbers together, the city gets that full allocation. And I think a lot of people think like, oh, all of that money is for the city to do what they want, and why do the schools get such a big chunk of it? The truth is that's not true. If the schools didn't exist, the city would not get that chunk of Chapter 70 funding. They would only get that smaller portion that stays within the control of the city council in order to deliver other constituent services in the municipality. So it resonates with me when you say that people think that all of this money is being given to the schools. All of this money is being given to the schools by the state, by Massachusetts general law. And it's really important to see kind of that differentiation. It's not that the city has free reign over how they spend that Chapter 70 funding. It must be appropriated to the schools.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for that very lucid explanation.
Mr. Kingston.
Matt, before you may leave, could we look at the listing of student activity accounts? Because I have a couple of questions. It's something that it's a communication from you to us.
Sure, each year you as a committee need to.
No, I understand that part.
Okay,
No,
great.
hold on, if you don't mind. It's a typo, that's not my main point. It's got the McKinley School in there, and I know what that is, it's just a typo, that's fine. But I'm looking at the Wayland School has $5,000 for a max checking account. The Beachmont has 10, and no offense to the Beachmont, but the Wayland has twice as many kids. I thought we fixed this, well, that's my point. I thought we fixed this in an earlier meeting.
did.
I don't recall when it was, I don't have it in front of me, but I remember talking about this before. And I thought we made them all 10 just to
Great.
be equitable, so.
Yes, you are correct. So that is a throwback from when we had ELT. And the ELT schools were getting grant funding separate
That's
from
right.
department money, but they also, because they had an expanded learning time day, they had fewer after-school clubs. But I believe that last year we did correct that, Matt, and that all of the
Great.
elementaries should be on an equal plane, as should the middles.
So how,
Wasn't City Lab though increased as well?
Yes, City Lab was made equal to a middle school. Yeah.
all right, so how we got the McKinley wrong and City Lab right is a mystery
That's what I
to
noticed,
me.
I was gonna give you a thumbs up on that. We got the,
We've been
City Lab's
updating
wrong.
post
no,
that.
City Lab High.
I will verify that the paperwork is in place for those
I was more worried
ceilings
about the
to be
amount.
up.
I know the McKinley system.
Right, and that if we did miss something in there and those ceilings are still too low, then I'll just put on the docket a vote to get them established.
Yes, please. Thank you. Sorry,
Okay.
just wanted to make that clear.
And also, we will find a more efficient and streamlined way to assign $200 to each staff member for the purchase of what they need in their classroom.
I wish I had discussed it, I wish I had discussed it with Mr. Viscayes here. The city gave $250 gift cards to every homeowner in the city. That was done, because I got one of them. So I don't think doing a gift card is breaking any laws or rules. And as far as, my suggestion, if I could, is, just ask for a receipt, that hand it to the principal, because to go through all you went through, I'll vote against, as much as I want to give the staff the stuff, it wasn't worth it. And I know 2 staff members who, through no fault of anyone, still waiting for their stuff, just because of supply chain issues. So,
I have dozens of open purchase orders
that's my
still
point.
for
So, no, it's too
items.
much of a regular for you, so I wouldn't do it. So I would willing to take the risk, give them the gift cards, and if we're in trouble, we'll worry about it later.
We also have non-accountable allowance realities through payroll, so we will figure that out and review it with you. Just didn't want you to think that the weight of that would land a second time.
We're also getting ahead of ourselves. None of that was even voted on yet.
That's right.
Happened a long time.
Okay.
right.
Mr. Chairman, I have one question for Dr. Kelly. On the money that we had to pay, the $2.3 million, are we eligible for any reimbursement in that?
No, we are not.
Then can I ask why the city was and we're not?
The city and the MSBA, in good faith, signed the funding agreement for the first feasibility study and schematic design submission. So MSBA had said, we agree to reimburse you at the City of Revere's reimbursement rate, which is a complicated calculation, but roughly 60% of that cost. when we went back to them and said, the city has decided not to submit this, and we need to start over on the existing site, they said, that's well and good, and we will help you and reimburse you for the actual building, but we're not going to pay for a second feasibility study and schematic design. You should have decided that before you got to this point.
All right,
So-
thank you.
And so just to explore this a little further, if I could. So what happens if we have a change in the constitution of the city council, who then might be more interested in going back to the original site at Wonderland instead of this, what I would view as an impossible, what happens then?
The only thing that I think I can say right now, because I've spoken to Paul Capizzi about this several times, is that he would prefer we not talk about Wonderland because it's in litigation. I can say that we have a completed schematic design for that property. We will have the completed schematic design for this property in November or December, and I don't know, I suppose we can see where we are at that point.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
Okay, next, no food service financials, communications.
Mr. Chairman, do you want me to read it?
Sure, please, Mr. Fronte.
We have a letter from John Ferrara, IT manager. Dear school committee members, we would like to formally request permission to discard old or broken RPS technology equipment. Majority of the hardware we are requesting to dispose is in excess of 8 years old. The items are either no longer functioning, broken to the point where the cost of repair exceeds the cost of the device, are so old that they no longer support current curriculum software or the newer operating systems adequately. The items are in point of their life cycle that would not be of use to other city departments or other municipalities and should be disposed of. All systems will be stripped of any usable parts and will be recycled in a manner considered to be eco-friendly. Sincerely, John Ferrara.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
No.
So move. Okay. No enrollment update, personnel items. New hires? Ms. Kelly?
The list is extensive, as you can see in your packet. Remember, this is information that's coming to you since your meeting in August. So we were still in the middle of the hiring process at that time. And so you have the new teacher profiles, and you also have the more basic list that has just the names of people who were hired, transferred, resigned, et cetera. If there's any questions on that.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions on new hires? Okay.
Yes, so,
And-
Ms.
Stacy and
Oh. Sure. Ms. Rizzo?
Thank you. I was disappointed to see at least 15 resignations since last month. That was a little saddened. And I was hoping that perhaps through Dr. Makoba, we can get some type of survey on why people might have, left, whether they moved, whether they went on to a career change or not.
We do send a survey to every employee who leaves the district, and I can ask Dr. Mokaba, she'll be here next month to present on our MCAS results, and I can ask her to add that to her presentation.
Why don't we discuss that tonight?
Okay. Mr. Kingston?
Dr. Kelly, how many positions are still unfilled?
I believe we have 5 open positions at this point, 3 at the high school, 1 at the Rumney Marsh, and 1 at Garfield Middle. Does that sound right? Oh, 2 at SBA. Oh, that's right, because we had those new.
Okay. Ms. Monterosso?
Thank you.
I think Ms. Stacy spoke on this a little bit, but if we can have a presentation a little bit more on also what our retention efforts are looking like this year. It's great that we have so many new hires, but we're only, I think, a month in, and 20 people have resigned across the district, so just learning more about what our strategies are would be great.
Thank you.
I do just want to point out that That's not like a huge, crazy resignation rate. It's not unusual for teachers to move to different districts. I can think of 5 offhand who got promotions to administrative positions in other districts. You know, so I just want to, but Danielle will have the full rundown and be able to share that with everybody.
Any other questions? No. We also have the retirements, resignations, well, same note. Okay, great. Acceptance of donations and gifts. It's regarding Innovation Career Pathway Planning Grant for $25,000.
So if I can just speak to that briefly, this is a grant that the City Lab had applied for to add a new pathway to their portfolio. And the one that they're working on that they're going to add, and this is a planning grant, so they're going to plan the programming this year, and then it'll be implemented next year on clean energy.
I'll get them to talk about turf.
Great. Okay. Okay. And we have the speech and debate field trip to New Haven, Connecticut, to Yale University. Ms. Rizzo.
Just an awesome program. I know they're going to do very well. And I truly support this type of field trip. And look forward to them coming back, telling us how much they learned, how much success they had. Exciting.
Ms. Monterosso.
I think I've been informed by the team that all students are being covered by the team funds, but I just wanted to ask if there is any more financial support that's needed or if they're all set to go.
I believe they're all set.
Okay, thank you.
Can always use, you gotta, this is your opportunity. No.
I opened it up for you.
When they win the competition and have to go to states or nationals, they might need some more funding for that, correct, Rayan?
Yeah, see, yeah, good job. They're the speech and debate team, not the fundraising team. Great. Okay. And then this concludes our regular subcommittee meeting. Any other motions? Okay, motion to adjourn?
Second.
Sure. Ms. Kelly?
So just 2 things that I want to share with the committee. One is that we have a team that is doing some statewide training with DESE and the MASS Ready Committee on equity. We have 2 principals, myself, Dr. Garcia, and a teacher from the high school who are going to participate, and we would like to invite a school committee member to join us. There are 5 in-person sessions, the first of which is this Friday, which I know is short notice. So if somebody wants to join us but can't make it this Friday, that's absolutely no problem. I've already checked into it, and that's okay. There'll be 4 more dates throughout the year. And then there are also 5 2-hour virtual meetings, and that's the full extent of the commitment. But I just thought it would be great to have a school committee member working with the team. We're focusing on Leahy and Keegan's work on immunity to change and how to foster change process in the district. So I can share that information with anybody who's interested. And then just the second thing that I wanted to put on the committee's radar, and we don't need to decide this right now tonight, but we did not somehow get on our radar that March 5th is the presidential primary. And so we need to think about what we want to do that day. Right now, it's scheduled as a regular full day of school for staff and students. And I thought that maybe we could take some time to think about whether it makes sense to have a half day or have a professional development day. If it's professional development, should it be virtual or in person? And maybe we can have that discussion and make a decision by October so we can give people plenty of notice on whatever the change in the calendar is going to be. And that's it.
Thank you. Ms. Rizzo?
Dr. Kelly, is this going to be all Fridays for the MASS?
Is it all Fridays? I actually believe that most of the dates are Wednesdays.
Okay.
Okay. Motion to adjourn?
Second.